I came home earlier than usual that Friday. The air outside was heavy with the smell of wet pavement, the kind that reminded me of my late shifts driving home through rain-soaked highways. My wife was out visiting her sister, so the house was quiet. At least, that's what I thought. I placed my keys on the counter, loosened my tie, and wandered toward the hallway that led to my daughter's room. The door was half closed, and laughter spilled out, a kind of laughter that's sharp at the edges, full of teenage secrets and careless words. I smiled at first, glad to hear her happy. But then I heard my name. "My dad is so clueless," Emma said. Her voice carried that tone only teenagers have, the one that makes small words sting like salt on a wound. Her friends giggled. One of them replied, "What did he do this time?" I froze, my hand halfway to the door. "He still thinks I'm this perfect little girl," she said, almost laughing. "Like, he doesn't even realize half the stuff I do when he's working late. He's just so naive, always asking if I'm okay, like I'm 10. The girls laughed louder. Something in me sank. I wanted to walk away, to pretend I hadn't heard a word, but my feet wouldn't move. Every sentence felt like a small betrayal. Another girl spoke. "At least he cares. My dad doesn't even notice if I'm home." Emma sighed. "Yeah, he cares, but it's like he doesn't get me. He still treats me like a little kid. He doesn't understand anything about my life." Their conversation drifted from boys to school gossip, but my mind stayed frozen on that one word, clueless. I'd spent years working double shifts to keep her life steady after her mother and I nearly divorced. Every choice I made, every extra hour at the job, every late-night grocery run, every sacrifice was meant to protect her, and she thought I was clueless. I backed away quietly, careful not to let the floor creak. My heart thudded like I'd been caught doing something wrong. I sat in the living room for a long while, staring at the muted TV. I could still hear faint laughter from her room. When she was little, Emma used to wait for me by the window. The moment she saw my car lights, she'd run to the door, arms open. She'd tell me about her day, every detail, teachers, drawings, scraped knees. Somewhere along the way, she stopped running to the door. I told myself it was normal. She was growing up, but sitting there that night, I realized it wasn't just growing up. It was growing apart. A part of me wanted to confront her right then, to tell her I'd heard everything. But another part whispered that it wasn't anger I was feeling. It was sadness. Deep, quiet sadness that doesn't know where to go. I thought about all the moments I might have missed. The time she looked sad, and I assumed was just teenage mood swings. The times I asked if she was okay and she said, "I'm fine," and I believed her. Maybe I was clueless. Maybe she wasn't wrong. I looked around the living room. Her old science project still sat on the shelf, a model of the solar system we'd made together when she was 10. She'd painted Saturn the wrong color, and I hadn't corrected her. She was so proud of it. I'd promised I'd never throw it away. The clock hit midnight before the laughter upstairs faded. I heard her bedroom door open, her footsteps moving toward the kitchen. I quickly turned off the TV and pretended to be half asleep on the couch. She stopped when she saw me. "Dad, you're home early." "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone even. Traffic was light. She nodded, grabbed a soda from the fridge, and started to walk away. "How was your evening?" I asked. "Good," she said, her back to me. "Just talk with some friends." I studied her for a moment. She was taller now, sharp around the edges, but I could still see traces of the little girl who once clung to my hand in crowded malls. "I'm glad," I said quietly. She smiled faintly before heading upstairs. The moment her door clicked shut, I exhaled. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying her words. "My dad is so clueless." Maybe it was just teenage exaggeration. Or maybe it was the truth I'd been too afraid to see. I thought about how I'd talk to her in the morning, maybe find a way to reach her without sounding like a lecture. But under that intention, a strange curiosity grew, a whisper that wondered just how much I didn't know about my own daughter. And somewhere deep down, I feared that I was about to find out. The next morning, the house carried that quiet weekend calm. Sunlight leaking through the blinds, the faint hum of the refrigerator, and footsteps upstairs. I made breakfast like I always did, scrambled eggs, toast, and orange juice. It felt mechanical, like following a ritual that had lost its meaning. Emma came downstairs around 10, hair messy, phone in hand, still half in her dreams. "Morning," she said, barely glancing up. "Morning," I replied. "You hungry?" She shrugged. "I'll eat later." She sat at the table, scrolling through her phone, thumbs moving like she was racing time. I watched her for a while, the way she'd smile faintly at something unseen. There was a time when I used to know that smile, what caused it, what it meant. Now it felt like watching a stranger's expression. I tried to break the silence. "How are your friends?" She looked up, startled. "They're good." "Why?" "Just wondering," I said with a small smile. "You were laughing pretty hard last night." Her eyes flicked toward me, guarded now. "Oh, yeah, we were just talking." She pushed her chair back before I could say more. "I'm going out later. Sarah's picking me up." "Where to? Mall, maybe?" "Don't worry, Dad." She gave that half-laugh teenagers use when they're hiding something under the casual tone. After she left the table, her phone buzzed where she'd laid it down for a second. The screen lit up, a message preview. "Don't tell your dad. He'll freak out." My stomach tightened. I didn't mean to read further, but the words were there like a bruise, staring back. I hesitated, caught between respecting her privacy and protecting her from whatever she was caught in. I didn't touch the phone, but the seed was planted. The laughter from last night, her secretive tone, the message, it all wove together into a pattern I couldn't ignore. When Sarah's car pulled up, I watched them from a kitchen window. Emma jumped in, laughing, carefree. A father's instinct is a strange thing. It feels like a silent alarm you can't switch off. Something about the way she kept glancing over her shoulder told me this wasn't just a harmless hangout. I grabbed my jacket and keys. I told myself I was overreacting, that maybe I just needed air. But somehow, I found my car following theirs a few minutes later, keeping distance like a ghost on the road. They drove across town and parked near a row of small stores. Nothing unusual. I was about to turn back when they crossed the street and slipped behind a cafe into an alley that led to an old art studio, one I hadn't seen open in years. Curiosity turned into unease. I parked and waited, my pulse steady but heavy. After a few minutes, the door opened and a man stepped out. Mid-20s, leather jacket, that effortless swagger you recognize instantly as trouble. He looked both too young to be respectable and too old to be a high school friend. He laughed as Emma and her friend followed him inside again. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, tore between storming in and trying to understand. I remembered her words. "My dad is so clueless." Maybe this was what she meant. Maybe I really didn't know the world she moved in anymore. After 20 minutes, she came out again, alone this time. She wasn't laughing now. She stood near the curb, phone pressed her ear, her expression tight. I cracked the window just enough to hear faint pieces of her voice carried by the wind. "I told you I can't keep lying. He's my dad, not an idiot." Silence. Then, "Fine, but this is the last time." When she hung up, she wiped her eyes quickly, the way someone does when they don't want to admit they've been crying. She looked around, unaware I was there, then started walking home instead of waiting for her ride. I didn't follow this time. I sat in the car, the weight of what I'd seen pressing down harder than any truth she could have confessed. I didn't know who that man was or what kind of mess she was tangled in, but I knew this. Whatever had built a wall between us had started long before last night. When I got home, she was already there, upstairs, door closed. The same door I'd once painted pink when she was 7, because she'd said it made her feel safe. I stood outside it for a while, listening to her soft music playing. Then I knocked. "Yeah," she said. "Can we talk?" There was hesitation before quiet. "Okay." I stepped inside. She sat on her bed, knees pulled to her chest. For the first time in years, she looked like that little girl again, small, nervous, unsure. "I'm not here to lecture you," I began. "I just want to understand. You said I was clueless. Maybe I have been, but I don't want to stay that way." Her eyes widened, color draining from her face. You heard that? I nodded. Last night, every word. Tears welled instantly, her defenses collapsing faster than I expected. I didn't mean it like that, Dad. My friends. It's okay, I said softly. Just tell me the truth. She hesitated, then whispered, I've been seeing someone. He's older. I thought you'd lose it if you knew. I closed my eyes briefly, steadying my breath. How old? 25. Her voice cracked. But it's not what you think. It was just attention. I felt invisible. I didn't shout. I didn't scold. I just sat beside her, the silence thick, with everything we hadn't said for years. Finally, I said, You're not invisible, Emma. You never were. I just forgot to remind you. She broke down then, sobbing into my shoulder, the kind of cry that drains all the distance between people. I held her and thought about how many small misunderstandings grow into walls. That night, when she finally fell asleep, I walked past her door and whispered the truth I should have said long ago. I'm not clueless. I'm just a father trying to find his way back. And for the first time in years, the house felt whole again.